What happens when the most significant moment in women's rugby history unfolds and the royal family is nowhere to be found? The Women's Rugby World Cup final should have been a celebration of athletic excellence, determination, and the incredible progress of women's sports on the global stage, but instead it became a conversation about who wasn't there. Neither Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales and patron of multiple rugby organizations, nor King Charles III, the head of state, made an appearance at this historic sporting event, and the absence has sent shockwaves through both the sporting community and royal watchers alike. Before we dive into the details of this controversial snub, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest coverage of royal news, sports controversies, and everything in between. Drop a like on this video, share it with your friends who love royal drama, and stick around until the end where we'll ask you a question that will make you think differently about the monarchy's role in modern Britain. The Women's Rugby World Cup final represents far more than just a sporting event. It symbolizes decades of struggle, perseverance, and the fight for equality in athletics. Women's rugby has grown exponentially over recent years, transforming from a niche sport played in the shadows to a mainstream phenomenon that draws massive crowds and television audiences. The final match was expected to be a showcase of world-class talent, featuring some of the most skilled athletes on the planet competing at the highest level. For many young girls watching, these players are heroes, role models who demonstrate that women can be just as fierce, competitive, and skilled as their male counterparts. The significance of this event cannot be overstated, which makes the royal absence all the more glaring and difficult to comprehend. Kate Middleton has long positioned herself as a champion of sports and physical activity, particularly when it comes to early childhood development and youth wellness. She holds patronages with the Rugby Football Union, the Rugby Football League, and has been photographed numerous times engaging with rugby players, attending matches, and promoting the sport at various levels. Her involvement with rugby has been well documented and widely celebrated, with many praising her genuine interest and hands-on approach. The Princess of Wales has made high-profile visits to rugby training sessions, she has participated in drills alongside professional players, and she has consistently used her platform to highlight the positive impact that sports can have on physical and mental health. Given this established track record and her official role as patron, her absence from the Women's Rugby World Cup final feels like a significant oversight, if not an outright snub to the female athletes who have worked tirelessly to reach this pinnacle of their careers. King Charles, as the monarch and head of state, carries the responsibility of representing the nation at events of national importance. Sporting events, particularly those of international significance involving British teams or hosted on British soil, typically warrant royal attention. The king has attended various sporting events since ascending to the throne, demonstrating support for different athletic disciplines and using these appearances to connect with the public. His absence from the Women's Rugby World Cup final raises questions about what the palace considers worthy of royal time and attention. Was this event not deemed important enough? Were there scheduling conflicts that couldn't be resolved? Or does this absence reflect deeper issues about how the monarchy values women's sports compared to traditional male-dominated athletic competitions? The contrast becomes even more stark when we examine the royal family's attendance record at men's sporting events. Male rugby internationals, football matches, cricket tests, and other major sporting occasions frequently see royal representation, often with multiple family members in attendance. The Wimbledon Tennis Championships see Kate Middleton in the royal box year after year, and football finals regularly attract royal attention. This disparity in attendance patterns creates an uncomfortable narrative about priorities and values. If the Women's Rugby World Cup final, an event that represents the highest achievement in the sport, cannot attract a single member of the royal family, what message does that send to female athletes, young girls who dream of sporting glory, and advocates for gender equality in athletics? Social media erupted with criticism and disappointment following the realization that no royals would be attending. Fans, athletes, and commentators expressed frustration, with many pointing out that this absence felt like a step backward in the fight for recognition and equality in women's sports. Some questioned whether Kate's patronage of rugby organizations was merely ceremonial, a photo opportunity rather than genuine commitment. Others wondered if the palace simply didn't understand the cultural significance of the event or had miscalculated how the absence would be perceived. The backlash has been swift and widespread, with hashtags trending and opinion pieces being written about what this says about the modern monarchy's relevance and connection to contemporary British society. The timing of this absence is particularly unfortunate given the broader context of women's sports in the United Kingdom and globally. Women's football saw unprecedented success and public support during the UEFA Women's Euro tournament, with the Lionesses capturing the nation's imagination and drawing record-breaking crowds. Women's cricket, netball, and other sports have been experiencing significant growth in participation, viewership, and commercial investment. There is genuine momentum behind women's athletics, and many hope that institutions like the monarchy would use their influence to accelerate this progress. The Women's Rugby World Cup final was an opportunity to demonstrate solidarity, to send a powerful message about the value placed on female athletic achievement, and to inspire the next generation of athletes. That opportunity was missed, and the cost of that missed opportunity may be measured not just in public relations damage but in the message sent to young women about whose achievements truly matter. Royal watchers have speculated about possible reasons for the absence. Some suggest that Kate may have had prior commitments that couldn't be rescheduled, or that there were family obligations that took priority. Others point to King Charles's busy schedule of official engagements and suggest that difficult choices must be made about where he spends his time. There are also those who note that the royal family cannot attend every sporting event, no matter how significant, and that reading too much into any single absence may be unfair. However, these explanations ring hollow when stacked against the pattern of attendance at male sporting events and the specific role that Kate holds as patron of rugby organizations. If attendance truly was impossible due to scheduling, one might expect a public statement expressing regret, or perhaps sending another senior royal as a representative, but no such gesture was made. The Women's Rugby World Cup final proceeds with or without royal attendance, and the athletes who competed delivered performances that showcased the very best of the sport. These women trained for years, sacrificed countless hours, pushed their bodies to the limit, and represented their nations with pride and distinction. They deserve to have that effort recognized at the highest levels, including by the royal family. The absence of that recognition doesn't diminish their achievements on the field, but it does raise important questions about institutional support for women's sports and whether progress is being made as quickly as many hoped. The players themselves have largely avoided direct criticism of the royal family, maintaining professionalism and focusing on their sport, but the disappointment is palpable among fans and commentators who expected better. This incident fits into a larger conversation about the role and relevance of the monarchy in modern Britain. As the royal family navigates an evolving social landscape, they face increasing scrutiny about their priorities, their use of public funds, and their contribution to national life. Supporting women's sports would seem to be an obvious win, an area where the monarchy could demonstrate progressive values and genuine leadership without wading into politically contentious waters. The fact that this opportunity was missed, whether through poor planning, misplaced priorities, or simple oversight, suggests that the palace may be out of touch with the values and expectations of younger generations. For an institution that relies on public support and affection to maintain its position, these missteps can be costly. Looking forward, there are questions about what the palace might do to address the fallout from this absence. Will Kate Middleton make a point of attending future women's rugby matches to demonstrate her ongoing commitment? Will the royal family issue any statement or acknowledgement of the criticism? Will there be changes to how decisions about royal attendance at sporting events are made, perhaps with greater emphasis on gender equality and supporting women's athletics? These remain open questions, and the answers will tell us much about whether the monarchy is capable of learning from mistakes and adapting to changing social expectations. The royal family has weathered many storms and controversies over the years, and this particular incident may fade from headlines relatively quickly, but the underlying issues it exposes about priorities and values are unlikely to disappear so easily. The Women's Rugby World Cup final absence also highlights the sometimes awkward relationship between tradition and progress that defines the modern monarchy. On one hand, the royal family wants to be seen as forward-thinking, supportive of diversity and equality, and in touch with contemporary Britain. On the other hand, they remain bound by protocols, precedents, and a traditional worldview that can sometimes clash with these modern aspirations. Navigating this tension requires careful judgment, and when that judgment fails, as it appears to have done in this case, the contradictions become visible and uncomfortable. The question is whether the institution has the flexibility and willingness to make meaningful changes, or whether these kinds of missteps will continue to occur, gradually eroding public confidence and support. For the women who played in that final, for the coaches who guided them, for the families who supported them, and for the fans who cheered them on, the absence of royal representation was disappointing but perhaps not entirely surprising. Women's sports have always had to fight harder for recognition, for resources, for media coverage, and for respect. Every gain has been hard-won, and progress has been frustratingly slow. The hope was that in this moment, with women's rugby reaching new heights of popularity and professionalism, the royal family would stand with these athletes and use their platform to amplify the significance of their achievements. That hope went unfulfilled, and while the sporting world moves forward regardless, the memory of this absence will linger, another data point in the ongoing struggle for true equality in athletics. The broader implications extend beyond just this one event. If the royal family cannot be counted on to support women's sports at their highest moments, what does that say about institutional support more generally? Other organizations and influential figures take cues from the monarchy, and when royal attention flows in certain directions, others tend to follow. Conversely, when the royals are absent, it can signal that an event or cause is less important, less worthy of attention and resources. This ripple effect means that the impact of the royal absence from the Women's Rugby World Cup final may extend far beyond that single day, potentially influencing funding decisions, media coverage, and public perception of women's rugby and women's sports more broadly. As we process this disappointing chapter in the relationship between the royal family and women's sports, we're left with complex feelings about tradition, progress, and the responsibilities of those who hold positions of privilege and influence. The women who competed in that Rugby World Cup final will continue their careers, inspire the next generation, and push the boundaries of what's possible in their sport, but they'll do so knowing that when they needed support from the highest levels of British society, that support was absent. The question now is whether this absence was an aberration or a reflection of deeper issues that need to be addressed. Time will tell, but for now, the conversation continues about what we expect from our institutions, who gets recognized and celebrated, and whether true equality in sports is achievable when those with the most influence choose not to show up. So here's the question we want you to think about and answer in the comments. If the royal family cannot find time to attend the Women's Rugby World Cup final despite holding patronages with rugby organizations, does their support for women's sports mean anything at all, or is it just empty symbolism that falls apart when it matters most?